Hello, hello, beloved hearts. And Cassia and I are happy to be back with you again today. And we'll be talking about conditioning versus exploring. I'll let her explain what conditioning is, and we'll both talk about exploring after having worked with each other for a year and a half. That's very clear to me now, and I'd love to share a little bit of my experience after we talk about this just for a little bit. So over to you, Katia.
Mhm. Thank you, Alva. And I'm also really pleased that we are connecting again with the intention to share, to inspire, to share our experience, what we may call as our knowledge, however we call it. So this is a really great topic, and because most of us are really impacted by this, I feel that so many people um, feel like maybe what they experience in life it's limiting them.
Good
And
word.
I also feel that one of the reasons is because there is no clear awareness of this. So let's maybe share what I've experienced, because again, what we can call as our knowledge, or how we know that something is true, is basically by experiencing this. And there is also this saying that the true understanding, or what I call inner standing, is really uh, our awareness. It's not even what we have, because that's not really the way it is. It's who we are. We are just this pure, infinite consciousness that knows. Simply, it knows. So why the conditioning plays a very important, it doesn't play very important role, but it impacts us in a big way. Because we have been conditioned, particularly for those who experience this human life on this planet for a bit longer. Perhaps those of us have experienced this conditioning for decades, for so many years. And the separate self, the limited mind, the ego, will come back. What I want to share is also one aspect that maybe even a few, but let's start with the one that I feel it's important to mention this, to say this loudly. So sometimes, and where are my questions are coming from? Because I'm being asked those questions. So what I share here is also I answer some of the questions that sometimes some of you ask in comments. Perhaps I don't respond maybe to every single one of them, so I apologize for that, but it's not always possible to respond to every single one, but hopefully this video will answer some of them. So sometimes we may experience like this, what we may call like awakening, like there's this glimpse and we suddenly know, of course, this is the pure awareness speaking through us, because it always knows that that's who we are. It's stronger, it's lighter than any conditioning, and it will always guide us. I mean, this human life that we experience here, the awareness is always there. So sometimes people also ask or they express this what I would call expectations, or maybe they have the image that they will be free from conditioning one day. So my question is, what if this is never going to happen in this lifetime? What if the conditioning perhaps it's going to be less impactful in our life? It's not going to be as strong as it is right now, but it may still pop out and still it will be part of this um, separate self that is experiencing this. Because despite the fact that we've experienced this enlightenment, what we may call like enlightenment, and there is very few people who have experienced this awakening and they feel that they are free of that conditioning, but that's very, very few people.
Mm.
So I wouldn't set that expectation. This is something I've never experienced myself, that I would be completely free. However, what really helped me, and that's what worked for me, what still works for me, and I want to share that experience, is that when I became aware of that, like what the conditioning is, and when I was able to recognize, hey, this is just the conditioning, that's not who I am. My approach to that was completely different. This literally changed, if I can even call it, it changed my life in many ways because I didn't create resistance anymore. And when we create resistance, we block everything in life.
Before you delve deeper into that, let me interject if we will. I want to go back to when you were talking about the conditioning and pure awareness that we are, our true nature is lighter and brighter. It made me think about how when you're a child and someone tells you something about the world or something to do or do something a certain way, and there's like there's this thing inside of you that's like, no, that's not right for me, or that's not right. Um, I'll just briefly say, uh, I'm gonna say, like, I used to love to climb trees. I love climbing trees. And my mother would tell me it's not safe, it's not safe, it's not safe, it's not safe, don't do it. And of course I would get in trouble if I did it, but it was worth it to me because it was totally safe. There was something in me that knew that it was safe, and there was something in me that knew that I was perfectly at home to be up there in the tree.
Let me ask something very important now. You've just literally said what I'm going to quote, something in me knew what that was.
I would say that was my true nature. That's the awareness that you're talking about. I
That
wanted to give an example of that because I wanted us to normalize awakening isn't like this, aha, you know that you're not the small limited self, and then you go off and you live your life and you're blissed out forever. Because I feel like our truest self is communicating with us all the time, and it's not some loud thing. It's like this deep, as you said, inner knowing, like, this is, no, I'm going to do this way, this is right for me, so that we can become more aware of that in our everyday life. And then the part where you were talking about, what was the second part after you were talking about the conditioning? Oh well, that thought came and went. But I just wanted us to be, it happens to us all the time throughout the day, where where we have this deep inner knowing that our truest self is communicating with us. And the more we can normalize that. Oh, and this was the second piece when you were saying about expectations. That's so true. I feel like the more I allow and accept and become aware of my inner self communicating, or my truest self communicating, the less I expect to stay in that state all the time. Does that make sense? Then I can meet whatever comes up in my life. And so I wanted to speak to that. And like you said, that does drop the resistance. The second I'm in resistance, oh, that's my conditioning. This shouldn't be happening. Well, it is happening, right? So I can lean into that. And the only part that feels like this shouldn't be happening is like some part that's like afraid or feeling like it can't meet. But if I can relax, and I just wanted to interject because I wanted us to realize that we've all like had this relationship with ourselves, our truest self, forever. And so just I wanted to break it down to an everyday way that like maybe people could recognize it and lean into that more. At least that yeah, and that I'm calling exploration, because at first I can be really serious about it, but now I can just kind of more lightly move through my life and meet whatever is happening. Or if I catch myself in the conditioned mind, in resistance, once I become aware of it, and usually for me, it's the way I feel in my body. I feel contraction, I feel tightness, I feel fear, I feel anxiety, I feel worry, or I feel a loop, like the same old tape just keeps running. What
Yes,
if
yeah,
this happens? What if that happens, right? It takes me out of the present moment. But
yeah.
I just wanted to presence that so people might recognize or be able to connect with it, connect with
Yeah,
what you're
so
saying.
there are two the things or aspects I would love to just mention again just loud. Something that you've just shared, Alva, you've used the describing how you felt. So why you felt like this? And of course, the way you've described, it's only the separate self can feel like this. And why
Mm-hmm.
it's like this? Because of that pure awareness that you are just brought this light. So the separate self just felt suddenly insecure. Or something is new. It's too bright. It's too gentle. It's not going to be safe now. So there is also this fear that the limited mind, the ego, basically is experiencing. So it brings what we may perceive as those emotions. So those sensations, sometimes they may appear literally in the physical body. We may feel even what it can. We may perceive this even as pain or stiffness, some contraction, like something that it doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah, yeah,
And the other
yeah.
aspect, which I wanted to mention, excuse me, right at the beginning, about the conditioning itself, that I think we've shared this in our previous video, that this is what happened usually quite early in our
Mm-hmm.
childhood. It's not personal. So the conditioning that we inherited, it's not personal. It's not but because we did something in the past and now we are experiencing this life because of that conditioning. No.
Yeah,
So
it's not personal on the individual level, and it's also not personal on the collective level, right? There's no
yeah,
giant conspiracy. Everyone is operating. If we're not aware that we're more, everyone is operating off of conditioning. And while you're saying that, a friend said something on a group call the other day that I feel bears to mention here. We think of ourselves as part of our conditioning is we're human beings, but it's really been beautiful to begin to feel into. This is what it feels like being human, not a human being, but this is what it feels like as pure awareness, as being human, as Cassia, as Alba, as humanity. You know, that to me feels so much more expansive. It's like, oh, right? Like, who's actually having this experience? Awareness itself is being human as me. And so it's having the experience of peace or suffering. Like, it's not it's not opposed to anything. It's just having the experience. And so that's also helped me to be like, not go down the rabbit hole of blame, shame,
Yeah.
guilt,
Let,
regret.
let's just share it maybe so we can explain like how the awareness can have that experience. Of course, the
Uh,
awareness can only experience not in anything that is finite, but it, let's say, like localized
yeah.
that human experience in that body, in that separate self, so that that part is experiencing basically what we may describe all like all life experience here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a fascinating topic, to be honest, and because I have been exploring it for so many years, and this is something what I feel, and that's my intention, that it may be let's say supportive, helpful, or inspiring. If you um, if you want to experience, I don't know, some kind of freedom, liberation from the conditioning, I would invite you first to accept it. This is the first step to become free of it, so that we don't feel like we are controlled by the conditioning. So we don't run our life on autopilot. That was my experience before.
Same. Same.
Literally sharing this from my experience. For most of my life experienced, I was experiencing this completely on autopilot.
Same
Like
here.
the mind was driving, and there were short glimpses, but there was also something I remember from my childhood, and this was something I've never read anywhere. I've never heard this from anyone. It was, of course, I didn't have any awareness, any knowledge of that at all. It was something speaking through me. Deep down, I felt this, that there is something in me that is unlimited, that it's so powerful. I've never shared this with anyone because I didn't know even how to express this, how to ask, because I thought maybe it was only me. And because I never knew anyone who would ever speak of this. And I thought maybe I'm just imagining, maybe this is like a dream, like a child. But there was something in me that knew. That's the knowing that we are. It's always there, always.
I love that. Limited versus unlimited. Not versus, because I don't want to say that. I want to say or limited or unlimited. That's a really beautiful way of describing coming from the conditioned mind. It's very limited. There's a problem, something needs to be solved. Um, you use the word safe. It's constantly seeking out safety, which is the brain's job,
Yes,
the way it's been conditioned or hardwired. And then unlimited is, like you feel more peace, you feel more ease, you might feel more joy or happiness, you feel lighter. You could, that same situation, but coming from our unlimited self, It's like, oh, we'll figure it out. Things have a way of working out. Everything tends to be okay. So I love that limited or unlimited. That's a beautiful way, I think, to, I think, and I feel. Um, that's just a beautiful way to experience life, right? Just beginning to become aware. And as you said, a beautiful other piece of that exploration, and even it's more playful to accept if I was coming from my limited conditioning, or my unlimited self. Like, that way we don't make ourselves wrong for when we are operating, or we don't make others wrong, or we don't make anything wrong when we recognize, oh, okay, limited, unlimited. And in that moment, I have access to the unlimited the second I recognize that. So,
Yeah, there is something I want to add, and I feel again that this is really important. So, just referring to what I've mentioned before, that we may not experience like being completely free of conditioning. However, it is our personal option to become aware of it, and also to consciously approach to step out of this comfort zone that we commonly call, experiencing life, this sort of safety that the limited mind wants to just remain. The ego wants to just remain where we are, doesn't want to explore really anything. However, when we choose to explore, there is this beautiful magic that we may experience in what we again call like the external world. Whenever we expand the safety zone, we go beyond. It feels like we bring more light. And it always shows basically in some aspects of our life. It could be the way we, in our relationships, in our friendships, it could be at work. This happens beyond anything that is verbalized. It literally works like this, and there is this lightness that we feel. So why I mentioned this? Because when we approach this consciously, this will probably not happen spontaneously, the way like we see, we hear because of our senses. No, we need to approach this consciously. That's why I'm really inviting everyone to experience life being involved in whatever we are involved in life. It doesn't matter. We can still work in jobs, from 9 to 5. We can still do anything in life, but at the same time, just be those explorers, be curious, and check. And how can we check? By experiencing. It's only by experiencing that we know, is this really true? So that we don't believe. Because when we said for any belief, that's conditioning. How do we know if something is true? Because it's written somewhere.
yes.
Because we were taught this in schools, because newspapers says about this, because there is a lot about this on TV. But that's a belief. Is this actually true? Can you experience this now? There's another topic, but I think we are probably going to just wrap up now.
Yeah.
But perhaps this is going to be for one of our videos at some point. How can we check something? How can we really experience. Like there are many things we can actually explore this event together, even in this video. Can we, what we are able to experience right now in this moment, this infinite moment that we are experiencing. One of the topics is time, what we call time. And then we can refer to the past, what we call as the past, and the future. I feel this is going to be a great topic at some point, because can we actually experience going to the past? Can we ever experience stepping into the future? Is this
Mm,
possible at all?
yeah, that's a beautiful one. Definitely for another short conversation. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today, or your experience. And I feel like just based on our experience together and where life has brought me so far, it would be good to talk about. I love you shared the question, is this really true? I feel like that's a whole video on like questioning whether we're experiencing the limited self or the unlimited self, because that's really where it opened up for me, was to begin to ask the questions and to begin to notice the feelings. And as I think back to my childhood, some of the things that people told me innately, I just had this inner knowing that that wasn't true for me. And as I think about the world, just about every barrier that ever someone said this is the way it is, somebody always, that barrier is constantly getting broken. So I feel like that's the unlimited self thing. Not really. who you are
Absolutely.
who you are is unlimited. So I think this is the perfect place, as you said, to stop. We want to thank you all for being here with us today. This was so juicy. It's so juicy. Like there's so much you could talk about, but we want to do it in like, bite-sized pieces so that we each have time to sit with it and explore it and then go from there. So
Thank you very much, Alva. Thank you, everyone. And we are looking forward to connect again with the intention to share and explore together by experiencing, being in this infinite present.
mhm.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.